Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, February the 15th. And as we like to do on Sundays, we'll be chatting with our good friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. So, George, welcome. It's always great to have you.
Thank you very much.
A lot of stuff going on in Texas, and we're going to get to it with you. But I do want to begin with a little history note. It was on this day in 1898, so that would make it 100 and whatever years ago, that the USS Maine exploded in Havana Harbor, leading the way to the Spanish American War that was very quick, 3 or 4 months, if that long, that eventually led, of course, to Spain losing Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines. There may have been a couple of others, small islands out there in the Pacific. And it was like the last straw, if you will, the last column of the Spanish Empire. And I, of course, don't remember that explosion personally, but my grandmother, who was a little girl at the time, has recounted many times when she was around. She would often tell me stories of that late 1890s and how eventually Cuba became an independent country in 1902. And I have a post at the American Thinker talking about this because what is interesting, George, is that there are some similarities between where Cuba was in 1898 and where Cuba is today.
Hmm.
And the fact that in 1898, it took an American intervention to change the island and put it on a route to independence. We may very well have the same situation now. I mean, I do believe that it's very likely that the change in Cuba will involve the United States in a capacity, at least not necessarily occupying the island, but certainly providing the island with the money and the resources, and especially rebuilding the infrastructure of the island that has been completely devastated by the communists. So I don't, I mentioned in my post that I'm not looking forward to another ship exploding, but it would be nice if something would spark. Maybe we need a spark in the Cuba situation, because right now Cuba's not going anywhere, and the people holding on to power in Cuba are not going anywhere except out. And the sooner we get them out, the better. Now, you mentioned to me, you sent me an article about the president of Mexico offering Mexico as a landing place, I guess, for planes to refuel. Was that right?
Yep, they want to be a bridge between Cuba and the rest of the world. Specifically, I guess they're talking about the United States, where they can be the intermediary the intermediate
Intermediary. Yeah.
to get what you call it to get humanitarian aid. And of course, it's always called humanitarian aid, whatever aid you're going to give them, even at times when it's guns.
Right.
But the Mexican president is offering to be a bridge between Cuba and the rest of the world.
There's a Mexican politician. I wish I had the lady's name, but she's a Mexican politician of the opposition. Maybe she's not from the opposition. I'm not sure. But I think this lady has the best explanation for all of this. She said, if you really want to help the Cuban people, help them overthrow the government they have.
Exactly.
In other words, if your objective is humanitarian aid, the best humanitarian aid is a change of government. And I think this lady's 100% correct.
I think at this point, Cuba is much like the alcoholic who's a derelict on the street.
Yeah.
And the assistance that liberals are giving them is more liquor, rather than drying them out, rather than getting them to a hospital and getting them over that terrible hangover of communism. It doesn't seem like Ms. Scheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is doing any of that. All she wants to do is just continue the dependency and continue the nightmare.
Yeah. Well, she's hiding behind the humanitarian assistance curtain, which is, of course, what they always do.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think there's an ideological affinity there that she has with the communist regime. And I think, I would take the advice of that other lady in Mexico who said to either in the Mexican Senate or to a newspaper or whatever, that the best assistance is to help them change their government, because that's really the only way out here. This current government is not going to do anything for Cuba. I mean, they've destroyed the country, and they need so much help. And I'll tell you where they really need help, George, is these power plants that are literally, I mean, the country is literally without lights. Isn't that, I mean, just think about that for a second. An entire country.
It's beyond third world. I mean,
Yeah,
it's no longer just third world. It's beyond that. And
right.
again, that is a direct result of a communist dictatorship.
Absolutely. They want to blame it on the embargo. Well, they can trade. Anybody can trade with Cuba. The embargo only applies to U.S. companies. But there's lots of European companies who won't trade with Cuba. And they won't trade with Cuba because they don't pay their debts. It's that simple. I mean, isn't that something? But anyway, so it was on this day, 1898, that it sort of started, if you will. Well, tell me about Bad Bunny. What did you think of Bad Bunny?
Well, actually, I didn't see him. Actually, I had nothing. I changed the channel, and I got food, and I did all sorts of things. I missed the halftime completely. I caught a little bit of what was going on in the other channel, but even that I didn't watch it. I think the biggest problem that the NFL has at this point is that they want to be socially responsible and socially relevant more than they want to be entertaining. And the issue that they are losing viewers at halftime is something that they need to they need to do a little bit of self-reflecting.
Right.
First of all, I'm from a different generation, and I have no idea who Bad Bunny is. But then, secondly,
he's not a bunny. In case you didn't know, he's not a bunny.
No, I understand he's not a bunny. And the other situation to it is the bad publicity, the controversy that led up to this halftime where he was criticized because where he said himself that he was going to criticize ICE and that he was going to celebrate immigrants and that he was going to be anti-American. Well, that's not exactly the way that you should promote your own your halftime show.
No, I agree with you. I honestly, I don't know a single song that he's recorded. So I will tell you that, in terms of normally I know one song that they've recorded because, even Ricky Martin, was that his name? I knew him. I knew one song that he recorded, but with this fellow Bunny, I don't know anything that he's ever recorded. So I'm like totally in the dark here about him. But I think the mistake that the NFL made, and you hit on it, they're trying to be too cute. Because really, what do people want to watch during the halftime show? Some people want to be entertained, and that's why you have country music stars or whatever performing. Other people, honestly, that would apply to me more than anybody. During the halftime show, I usually get up and go eat. I honestly don't remember at any time sitting there saying, oh, I got to watch the halftime show today. Even the time that Paul McCartney was on, and I'm a huge Paul McCartney fan, even that time I missed some of it. Because to me, it's the game that you're interested in. But there was some numbers, George, that if I'm the NFL, I'd be a little worried. They were, let's say, 100 people watching the halftime or the end of the first half. Let's say 100 people. And only 88 were watching Bad Bunny. So they lost 12 out of 100 viewers in the halftime show. That's a lot of viewers. When you're talking about the Super Bowl, that's a lot of viewers. And these advertisers pay a lot of money. Also, there's concern that this alternative halftime show may have started a trend here.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden the NFL is going to have to say, okay, who's going to be on the other channel? Who's going to be doing the other show?
The competition.
Yeah. And that's something that really shouldn't happen. It should be, this is the NFL's game. And that's everybody else should not be an issue. So I
Unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately, it's not about the game for the NFL right now. It's to try to be socially relevant. I mean,
right.
it has gone downhill since they started singing the Black national anthem.
I
What
don't
is
get that
that?
either.
What is that?
Yeah.
And they start losing. They started losing people then, and they continued to. I mean, people were very dismayed that they
Yeah.
did it again. Prior to the kickoff of the Super Bowl.
And what is the Black national anthem anyway?
Yeah,
I had no idea until recently that there was even something
and
called the Black national
why
anthem.
just the black? If you're going to do that, then let's hear something by Perez Prado at the same time. Why not,
Hispanic national anthem.
Yeah, right.
No, I think that's a big mistake about, and George, sometimes I wonder, because we always assume that blacks in the country are in favor of these things. I bet you there's a lot of Black Americans in the United States or African Americans who looked at this thing and said, "What the heck is that?
Yep.
A Black national anthem? I didn't know we had one."
They don't know it. Yeah.
So I thought that was another example. But in the very first Super Bowl that you and I remember, Kansas City, Green Bay, you remember that one? The halftime show were two college bands.
Right.
The next year, they came back with two more college bands. Then they had, when they went to Miami, and they played in Miami, then they had some kind of a Miami show, not musical, but just, talking about the history of Miami, and had some high school bands. I wish they would go back to that.
Exactly.
I wish that the halftime show was like the two states represented or the two cities represented. Each one would say, okay, however they want to choose the university. I know some schools, some cities or states have more than one. So, for example, Texas, you could have a lottery between the A&M and Longhorns or whatever, and send one band, and then the other state can do the same thing. I think that would actually create more interest and more excitement.
And get more excitement. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. One of the things that I was laughing at was that there was a critic that said next year's that the NFL has already announced for next year's halftime show that they're going to have Iranians marching through the middle of the field proclaiming death to America.
Yeah, I think that was Babylon B that said that. Yeah, that was fabulous. That was fabulous. But I think they were trying to be cute. They thought they were going to tap the Hispanic market.
Exactly.
But
it backfired.
I think so, because if their objective here is to, let's say, promote the game in Brazil, they're doing that. The Cowboys are playing in Brazil this year. The Cowboys are playing a game in Brazil this year. Or they want to play a game in Argentina, or they want to play, they play in Mexico, which is great. They have huge fans in Mexico. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I think a lot of Mexicans would feel a little bit patronized if they just want to watch the game. They're not into, they don't have to have artists singing in Spanish. They're interested in the game.
Yeah, they're again. The bottom line to the NFL is the sport, not the entertainment.
That's right. And you may remember, George, in the late 70s, the Dallas Cowboys began to realize that there was a following for them in Mexico. And it happened because when Mexico went into cable TV, there were in Mexico City, in the large cities, they had cable TV, and they brought in a couple of stations from South Texas, Brownsville, and some of the cities on the border. And they were like NBC and CBS and outlets. So on Sundays, they would carry the game, right, as part of their programming. And so a lot of Americans got into football that way, plus a lot of Mexicans got into football that way, and they would watch it. And then, of course, a lot of Mexicans get into American football because they go to school up here. I have a friend who went to Notre Dame, who is a huge Notre Dame football fan. In fact, every Saturday, they have a huge party in Mexico City with like 300 alumni of Notre Dame who get together to watch Notre Dame. So that you have that following, but that's about football. That's not about That's not about ethnic
Cultural
things.
heritage.
Yeah, that's all about
Cultural
football. They
heritage.
they like football. That's what they want. So anyway, another thing too that I would recommend to the NFL, if they really want to reach Latin men, focus on the cheerleaders.
Yes.
Focus on the cheerleaders. You know, those Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I
Not some
remember.
cross-dresser, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah, not Bad Bunny. You want to reach Latin men? I'll tell you, when I lived in Mexico in the early 80s, the Cowboys were huge. I mean, they were huge. And you could see the cheerleaders being advertised on TV all the time. And you know, it was all about these, oh, look at these pretty girls, you know, who dance during the game. That went down really good in Mexico. And I'll bet you it'll go down pretty good in Latin America. So focus on the cheerleaders, not Bad Bunny, and you're going to break through like crazy, George.
Yep.
I think
Stop
so.
being socially relevant.
Yeah, I would add. I would add to that. So yeah, Bad Bunny was a bad idea. I hope we don't see Bad Bunny again.
I hope not.
Yeah,
Or somebody like him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Well,
I mean,
look at a couple of, you know, a couple of the last, particularly since George Floyd, of the halftime shows have been more like hip hop, black events rather than halftime. And I mean, you know, same thing. I mean, nobody wanted to feel like they were going to get mugged after the show, or anything of the nature. So they need to recognize that people watch the game for the game, not for the entertainment.
No, the game is the thing. That's what it is. Anyway, let me put another juicy topic on the table here, George. High schoolers marching. You have these high schools where kids are going out marching, obviously with the consent of the school, because you know kids can't just get out of class and go outside and march unless somebody in the school let them out. And that's created quite a controversy. I know there was one in Austin. I don't know if there was one here in Dallas, but my whole point is that if high schoolers want to march, do it on Saturday morning on their own time. But don't do it in the middle of the school day, because, you know, I was having lunch today with some friends, and one of our friends was a school teacher here in the area. And I was telling her if I was a parent, what would scare me the most is you put a couple hundred kids like that, high schoolers, out on the street marching. What if some crazy head decides to bring a gun to the march and start shooting these people? I mean, look, we have crazy people. I think we would agree with that. And all of a sudden, you know, you have this horrible situation. I mean, I know the police were there. I know that. But the police can't control, I mean, so many people. If somebody wanted to go in and do some harm. Remember what happened during the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade or whatever?
Correct.
So I think that these administrators need to be held accountable. I don't know what the governor can do about it, but I certainly hope that whoever the state education heads are, I think they ought to fire some of the teachers, George.
Definitely. I think that these school walkouts, because there were several here in San Antonio, there were several in Corpus, there were several in Houston, like you said, in Austin, there were several of them. They've even been in small communities, in small towns like Fredericksburg and New Braunfels. These walkouts are too well coordinated. These are not grassroots events that are just happening because the kids all of a sudden get inspired to do something. These are well coordinated. That's number one. Number two is that they are not super well attended. There are maybe 100, maybe 50, some cases less than that, kids walking out. However, the media makes it sound like it is a mass walkout.
Right.
There are cameras everywhere. The kids are rarely interviewed because the media knows that they're too dumb. They don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're marching.
I mean, they're out there partying instead of actually recognizing what they're talking about. The ones that do speak to the camera you can tell that they are very well rehearsed, because when they are asked a question, they just go blank. These are not, these protests are protests that are going on, that are well coordinated, that are well planned, and that are well supported by, in my opinion, the teachers union.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are memos that they have found in other states, maybe not Texas, but in other states, where clearly the teachers union was behind it. But my biggest concern, even if all the students knew what they were doing, even if each one of the students had given thought to this and was really concerned about ICE or whatever, my biggest concern is their safety.
Yeah.
You know, your 15, 16-year-old son or daughter is all of a sudden marching down the street. I mean, that's a risk that as a parent, I don't think we should be running.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've read that there was one case where one of the teachers actually sent him to like some kind of a training program to get indoctrinated. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's unacceptable. But I think you're right. Somebody's organizing these things, and whoever that someone organizing it, I don't know.
They need to be held responsible.
I think so. I think I like to see some parents too take legal action against the district.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I guarantee you that not every parent whose child was out there was aware of what this field trip was going to be about. I guarantee you that didn't happen. All right, well, let's talk about Texas a little bit. Let's start in South Texas, where, because of the redistricting, we have some new districts down there. 4 of them, at least, in South Texas. The other one, I think, is in Houston, isn't it? Houston or Austin?
Houston,
right?
In
yeah,
Houston.
because that's the old district that lady used to have. The lady who passed away. Right,
Sheila
yeah.
Jackson Lee and
Right.
Al Green. It's a combination of the two of them.
Yeah. All right. So that district has already gone Democrat. I'm pretty sure it will. But what about the 4 down in South Texas? What's the latest reading?
Well, they continue to be leaning red, all 4
Yeah.
of them. However, the one in Laredo, that's a big question mark now. Not because of the
Is that Henry Cuellar?
That's Henry Cuellar.
Oh, okay.
But because of Henry Cuellar himself. Cuellar was the only Democrat recently that voted for the SAVE Act. He was the only Democrat that voted against shutting down the
ICE, right? Or DHS.
DHS. He was the only Democrat that also voted with the Republicans to keep funding the DHS as well as the rest of the government. I can't but feel that the Democrats have a big, huge target on him.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not sure what is going to happen.
You mean like a primary?
Oh, well, even beyond that, because we haven't heard of a primary candidate against him. At least I haven't. However,
well, the last time, if you remember, he ran into a heck of a primary challenge.
Yeah, right.
Almost
Yeah,
lost,
but this time around, they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody running. However, there is a real effort for everybody to stay home and not vote for him, which means that the Republican candidate, Tano Tijerina, who is the current Webb County judge,
yeah, a good candidate too. He's a good candidate.
In all probability, beat him.
Right.
So there's the old attitude that the only thing in the middle of the road, which is what Cuellar is right now, he's playing the middle of the road. The only thing in the middle of the road are dead possums and dead skunks. And so I'm not sure what is going to happen with him. Now that is a huge district there. Then you've got the one over with
Vicente, right? Vicente Gonzalez.
Vicente Gonzalez,
who's a Democrat,
and he's a Democrat. And Vicente is hurting again because he is trying to walk a fine line between being a hard left Democrat which you can't do because people don't stand it down there.
Right, right.
But and trying to be a conservative Democrat, which they also don't, will not tolerate. So
That's
he's
getting harder to be a
real.
conservative Democrat these days, George.
It is
Yeah,
extremely. That is
extremely
exactly
hard.
right. It is so those two right there are going to be very, very telling. The rest of them, I'm pretty sure that they will go Republican. But those two are going to be very, very interesting to watch because it'll show what the future of the Democrat Party, in my opinion, is going to be like in South Texas.
Yeah, and of course our friend Mark Teixeira seems to be headed for victory there in Texas 21. Yeah, he's looking good. But if I had to make an early bet with you, which I don't usually like to do, I don't usually like to bet anything more than a bottle of water, but because it's so cheap, if you lose, you spend 99 cents. But my guess is that Vicente Gonzalez goes down.
I think he will. He will.
I mean, in the fall. I don't mean the primary, but in the fall. I think he goes down.
Yeah.
Because he's got some tough candidates running against him. So that brings us down to Henry Cuellar, who I have a feeling he may still pull it off. But he's got the toughest Republican this year that he's had in quite some time, George.
He's got, he's got to watch the Republican opponent, who is extremely articulate, charismatic, very well known. He's got to watch that, but then he's also got to watch his back. Like I said, he has really angered Democrats who because he hasn't been to the left. He has not accepted the new Democratic Party. And so they may not, I really don't believe that very many of them are going to turn out for him in November.
Well, I'll tell you what, George, if Cuellar loses, he may want to change address. Maybe move out of Laredo and somewhere else in Texas.
His brother is facing, has been indicted and is facing some legal problems.
Similar to his, right?
Very similar. They're very similar to his with regards to the use of money and getting contributions and having an account abroad and several other things. His sister also, she was also serving as the Webb County county clerk and or tax assessor. She faced some criticism, more of the sense of how she ran the office, but also questions regarding the issue of financial management, and she lost. So the entire Cuellar family, I mean, Henry's family, not only himself, but they are, they've been tempted, and it'll be very interesting if he survives.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough, but if I had to pick one who will, I mean, if I had to say who is the Democrat down there who would survive, my inclination is Cuellar, because he's so deep rooted there.
Yeah.
That you have to go with him. But you're right. This may be the toughest year of all, because this fellow Tijerina, I have gone to his website and I've heard him speak. This guy is going to be one tough opposition.
He is.
For him.
He was on my show when he first announced back in late December.
Oh, okay.
And he was very, very articulate, very, very good.
Yeah, how old is Tijerina? I'm curious.
He is, I'd say, late 40s, early 50s.
Okay, so he's been there for a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been Webb County judge maybe 10 years.
Yeah, he's well known in Laredo. I guess that's what I meant to say. Very well known. Well, there is, of course, the other primary that everybody's talking about. The whole country is obsessed with it, and that's Talarico versus Crockett. Now, just briefly on the Republican side, right now it hasn't really changed. The numbers haven't changed. I mean, they're going to a runoff unless something dramatic happens over the next 2 weeks. Early voting, by the way, starts Monday, so there's going to be a lot of people voting. Yeah, so a lot of early voting starts tomorrow. But anyway, I think that one is going to a runoff. I really do. I don't think that either Cornyn or Paxton will pull it out in the primary. So that one is headed to a runoff, and I guess you and I can talk about that one once it gets into the runoff. The other one that is really interesting is, of course, Tallarico and Crockett. Today, I will tell you that the Dallas Morning News came out and endorsed Tallarico for the Democrat primary, or in the Democrat primary. They claim that he is, more reasonable, this kind of thing. They're not sure he's going to win the nomination, but they think he's more electable. Anyway, how do you see that race? And polls seem to say different things, George.
Well, I mean, this is a classic situation between practical politics and popular politics. Practical politics tells you that Tallarico is the more electable, tells you that Tallarico is the more wise choice, that he is not, that he is more palatable to voters. On the other hand, the popular choice is Jasmine Crockett, because she's a firebrand. She says what is on her mind, in many cases incorrect, but she says what's on her mind. She is very entertaining, and the radical left loves her. It's going to be a very, very good. It's to me, it's very entertaining because it shows the dramatic shift and schism that the Democrats are facing. Do they want to win elections with somebody who's moderate, who appeals to everyone, or do they want to go with candidates that are firebrands that appeal to certain groups and only certain groups? I mean, the race card has already been played.
Oh yeah,
she and her supporters are claiming that there's racism in the election, in the campaigns. So, if you're going to appeal to a broader group, Tallarico is the way to go. But I just don't. I think it's just going to tear their party more, and this is going to be a terrible primary for them, because when it's all said and done, there's going to be a lot of hurt feelings.
Well, I saw an article that said that that she's depending very heavily on the black vote.
Exactly. Yeah.
And something like 86% support among blacks. So if Tallarico were to win, are they going to show up? That's the question. That's the question, because he apparently isn't doing very well with blacks. She's killing him with blacks, and even with Latinos. It surprised me a little bit. She's actually over 50% with Latinos. Her problem, of course, is the white vote.
Yeah.
She's not doing very well with that. But overall, I mean, right now, the latest poll that came out had it 49, either 49-37 or 47-39, one of those two, which means neither one is over the top, but she's a heck of a lot closer than he is right now.
Yeah.
So where do you think it is? I mean, what's the latest poll that you've seen? Is it the one that I just said, 47-39?
I see Tallarico leading a little bit. That's what I see. I see, at least from what I hear in the streets.
But not getting over 50, you mean?
But not getting over 50. Definitely not getting over 50.
Which means that they have a big runoff coming up.
There's going to be a runoff, and that runoff is going to be very, very vicious.
Well, if you think they've played the race card so far, wait until you get to the runoff.
Just wait. Yeah. Wait till it keeps getting close. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait till they get into a runoff, and she's gonna unleash. Now, the biggest problem she has, of course, you mentioned it. She likes to say a lot of crazy things.
She does.
But unfortunately, as we just saw in New Jersey, I mean, in New Jersey, they had a primary to fill the seat of the governor who was elected. The lady who was elected went from the House to the governor's mansion. So they had to fill that seat in New Jersey. And they had appointed or nominated a so-called moderate Democrat. But he gets surprised on election day when a not so moderate Democrat wins. And now that lady, who is part of the squad, as they like to call them, she's going to be the next representative from New Jersey because that's a fairly blue district. So the energy and the money and is really on that side of the party, Jordan. Not Tallarico doesn't really appeal to that side of the party, even though in many ways he's just as liberal as they are. I mean, if you really listen to the guy. So
I mean, the fact that he is a religious white male, makes me wonder, why is he even in the Democratic Party? I mean,
yeah, well, there aren't too many of those left in that party.
No,
that's for sure. But yeah, so you believe it will go to a runoff?
Oh, definitely.
Tallarico. Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting because I think you're probably right about that. And if it goes into a runoff, then we have 2 months of those two. I assume they will have a few debates. And that's going to be also Cornyn and Paxton will go to the runoff as well. And we can get into that one the next time or right after the primary. Are you expecting, George, a heavy turnout in this primary?
As usual, I hope there is. We have had 8% max of registered Republican conservative turnout in a couple of the last local elections. I would hope that more than 8% turnout.
You're talking about the one in Fort Worth. That one was a disaster.
Yeah, well, I mean that all over the place. I'm hoping that it's going to be much more than 8%.
Okay, yeah, I do too.
So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. For November, you mean they have to really get some turnouts. All right, all right, George. I think this is the last time we'll talk about Bad Bunny. This is our last show that we will ever do about Bad Bunny.
I hope so.
So let's.
I have nothing to say about the guy. I don't even know who he is.
And I thought it was hilarious that a guy who doesn't speak English would be called Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody explained to him what a Bad Bunny is. I don't know. But anyway, Bad Bunny, I didn't care for him too much, but then I don't care for that kind of music, actually. And it is true. There were some words that he used during his performance that your mom probably wouldn't want your sister to hear. Some of those words were, they refined it a bit, but not completely. Well, George, thanks for your time as always.
Thank you very much.
And we'll load it up next week. I'm sure we'll have a lot of things to say.
You got it.
Thanks you so much. Thank you. Our good friend, George Rodriguez down in South Texas doing what we like to do with George, review things down there. Big primaries coming up here in Texas in a couple of weeks, and we'll see what happens. I think George is right. I think it's going to a runoff. Well, thanks for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.